and better than ever, baby. That is right. Woo, man, listen. This is the golden era of the Philadelphia Eagles, so why not let it be the golden era of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast, ladies and gentlemen. New look, new offseason. Ladies and gentlemen, coming off the Super Bowl season, Howie Roseman once again has entered a masterclass. He is showing why, and I'm going to officially claim it now because I haven't done so in past episodes. I haven't done so in a few years. But Howie Roseman, you're the best GM in football. He is absolutely the best GM in football. Draft, roster construction, contract negotiations, when to trade, when not to trade, free agency. He's the best in the NFL. Now, you got to thank Jeffrey Lurie for allowing him to have that leash by giving money up front to all these players. See, everyone talks about how is Howie Roseman doing this, and everybody knows the answer. Jeffrey Lurie gives him the money up front and lets him do his thing. But no other NFL team goes out and copies the model of paying your players up front so your cap hits lower so that you can manipulate the cap and accumulate players who can actually play. Because you do have to hit on your draft picks, which Howie Roseman has done. You got to hit on your free agency picks, Howie Roseman has done. You got to know what type of players to get, who to get, the coaches to hire, all that jazz. He's done it all. And once again, this offseason, he's showing why he's the best GM in football. Re-signing Saquon Barkley to a 2-year extension. He cut Darius Slay, cut James Bradberry, and that re-signing deal of Saquon Barkley opened up enough money to return Zach Baun. And now, the other people left on the roster to take care of are guys like Mekhi Becton and possibly, quite possibly, trading for a player like a Myles Garret. So, there are so many options that this man has left on the table here. It's remarkable that he's even had, that he even has this kind of leash, that he has this opportunity, considering he just won a Super Bowl last season. It's really, really remarkable. Unbelievable. And we're going to talk a little bit more about his offseason and a little bit more why this is such a masterclass and what moves he can make to get us back there in 2025. But before we do that, I excitingly introduce the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Asif Badi, and I am a Birds fan who talks about the Birds, only the Birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So help us grow this channel by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribing to the channel. Give me your thoughts on the new setup, why don't you, please? It also helps us get me out to as many Eagle fans out there as much as possible on the World Wide Web. On audio platforms, check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave a 5-star review. And in the end, it's free. It doesn't cost you a thing to subscribe to the channel, so please do me a favor. Help a brother out. Grow this channel organically and subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing. It's free. It doesn't, and like you, I like free things. So please help a brother out in that sense. Okay. Wow. So we signed Saquon Barkley, Zach Baun, and now there's talk about Myles Garret. If he lands Myles Garret, ladies and gentlemen, if Howie Roseman somehow lands arguably the best non-quarterback in all of football, I mean, you could name a bunch of players in the NFL, okay? You can name, TJ Watt, you can name Chris Jones, you can name Trent Williams, Saquon even, Derrick Henry. Like, there are a lot of players in the NFL who are spectacular. I don't know if there's anybody who is as spectacular. Geez, haven't been on the mic in some time, and I'm already mincing words here. Haven't seen somebody who is as good at their position as Myles Garret since Aaron Donald. And Aaron Donald is the best I've ever seen at defensive tackle. Myles Garret is that kind of player. And people want to talk about how you don't want to give up guys like a Nolan Smith or a Jordan Davis in draft capital for a player like Myles Garret. Let me tell you something. If the Philadelphia Eagles land Myles Garret by giving Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis and a draft pick or two, can you imagine this defensive line for just a moment? You have Jalix Hunt as a rotation piece, and you're going to get more defensive players in free agency who are going to want to take a cut to come here and in the draft. So you got Jalix Hunt, Moro Jomo, who is a quality player, 7th, 6th round pick from Texas a couple of years back, and he's played more snaps than Jordan Davis did in their Super Bowl run. Okay, so he's a quality player. They really like him. Jalen Carter. And then you add Myles Garret to the mix. Plus you return Zach Baun. Plus you got Nakobe Dean. And then you got Quignon, Q. And then you got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship. And then you're going to figure out what you're going to do with defensive back on the back end over there. But your defense, for the most part, is still intact. And then you add Myles Garret on top of it. It becomes, once again, the best front in football. And you got a beeline ticket to the conference title game at minimum. And not only that, you take away Myles Garret from teams like Detroit, who can really use him, like Green Bay, who don't be shocked if they somehow are in the conversation for him and can land Myles Garret. They have the assets to do it. Washington becomes a team that is looking at Myles Garret. You take away that player from all those teams. And it's not like, listen, I love Nolan Smith. He's grown on me. He's shown that he can play. And we knew Milton Williams was gone. We knew Josh Sweat's gone. But Nolan Smith is the key piece. And then Jordan Davis is in his 5th-year option right now, right? Or he's going to be in that 5th-year option. And we're going to have to make a decision on him. I'll be damned if I'm going to keep Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis over Myles Garret. Hell no. If Cleveland's going to look at me and say, hey, listen, we want Nolan, we want Jordan Davis, and we want a 1st-round pick for Myles Garret, and you take on the contract, yeah, sign me up for that twice on Sunday, every day of the week. Absolutely. Why would you not? This guy is he's one of the greatest defensive players we have seen in the NFL. That guy's going to go as a Hall of Fame talent. He's going to be in Canton, Ohio. That guy's going to have a bust in Ohio. He's the best defensive player in football. And you're going to pair him with Jalen Carter and Moro Ajomo and Zach Baun and Nakobe Dean paired with the back end. You can't double anybody on that defensive front. It's impossible to block. Not only that, Myles Garret has never played with a caliber of player like Jalen Carter, and vice versa. So for those of you who want to say we want to keep Nolan and you want to keep Jordan Davis because you know it's the number 1 defense, I get you. Totally valid. And I won't be upset if we do. But this idea that by no means necessary will I get rid of Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis for a player like Myles Garret. Give me a break. Give me a break. Can you imagine trying to block that front in the NFC? Nobody can. It makes your defense that much better. It makes the loss of Darius Slay a little less impactful because now you have such a pass rush up front and have the ability to play the run with a 3-man front where all of a sudden the back end can kind of lax a little bit. Not that they're going to lax a little bit, but you get my point here. There's not as much pressure on the back end to cover because you got Myles Garret, Jalen Carter, and Moro Ajomo up front trying to get after the pass rusher. And then you have Jalix Hunt over there as a rotation piece, plus whoever you're going to get in the draft. Because this draft class is not super deep anyway. It's not like you have superstar players here. Almost a lot of these guys, from what I hear about a lot of people who are better than me at covering the draft, they talk about this draft class as people from pick 20 to like pick 60 are virtually the same caliber of player in terms of ability. And if that's the case, then you know what? I am all for either trading back in the draft, using this pick to land a player like Myles Garret. All of that's in play. But the reason that's all in play is because Howie Roseman is such a genius at his freaking job, making these football decisions, roster construction moves, contract negotiations at he makes it look stupid easy. This is a Madden football team, guys. This looks like a Madden football team. It's unbelievable. And it's already resulted in a Super Bowl. And we're on the verge of potentially setting ourselves up for another run. Which brings me to my last point here. And this just kind of puts a bow on everything. This may be the greatest run in Philadelphia Eagles history. Now, I know we look at 21 and 22 with Jalen Hurts, and we're saying, oh, I mean, that's not a dynastic run per se, but hear me out. From 2022 to now, you've had 2 Super Bowl appearances, and you've split them. On your way to those games, you've beaten the 49ers, you've beaten the Vikings, you've beaten the Rams, you've beaten the Washington Commanders, a division rival. You've beaten the Green Bay Packers now. You've kicked the Chiefs' teeth in just the previous game. And now that pressure of a Super Bowl is off the back of these players. Now they can go out there and just play free. Now they can go out there, and if players want to play for legacy, they can. But now they're just going to play football. And that's one of the biggest luxuries a young football team can have. The Seattle Seahawks did it with Russell Wilson. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have already done it. Tom Brady with the Patriots early on in his career did that. When you get a Super Bowl title early, hell, even in the NBA, when you get titles early, when you win the biggest game early on in your career, that check mark is off your bucket list now. You've accomplished what other teams are not able to do. Jalen Hurts, this Eagles organization, Howie Roseman, Sirianni, Jeffrey, they have their Super Bowl title now for this rendition of the Eagles. There's no doubt that they can win the big one now. Now it's just a matter of how many times can you get back there and win it again. And all of that, in the grand scheme of things, ladies and gentlemen, is gravy. And if you somehow go on a run where you get back to an NFC title game and you get back to a Super Bowl and potentially win 1 or 2 more, not only is it the golden era of the Philadelphia Eagles franchise, it's the best run in Eagles franchise history. Jalen Hurts would cement himself as the greatest quarterback in Philadelphia Eagles history. It would also put Howie Roseman, if not already, in the Hall of Fame, puts Nick Sirianni on a Hall of Fame track. All these players all of a sudden become Hall of Fame caliber players. This season is the mark of potentially what could be the start of what is the greatest run in Philadelphia Eagles football history. And it's all because of Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, Nick Sirianni, and star quarterback Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. We need to sit back and appreciate what we're witnessing right now because we are witnessing greatness. We're witnessing excellence. And as an Eagles fan, I'm super excited for what this 25 season is going to bring. And like I said, if Howie Roseman once again continues his masterclass and lands Myles Garret, sayonara. Good night. Call it a freaking season. There ain't no way that this Philadelphia Eagles team doesn't get back to the conference title game. And if you are hosting in Philadelphia, good luck. Good luck to every team in the NFC because there is no team in the NFC right now outside of the Rams. And even then, who could go into Philadelphia and beat the Eagles in an NFC title game? It's just not happening. Hey, thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast.